fuck, it's time to chill. So roll that blunt and light it up. I know I say this all the time, but look how much I give a fuck.
What could be the new franchise beyond Avengers teased by Disney's CEO? X-Men. It has to be X-Men, right? Iger's use of the word franchise suggests something else that's interlinked, beyond the MCU we know now. My guess is, he's not talking about the Great Lakes Avengers, although Mr. Immortal, the pterodactyl human dinosaur, the formless teleporter Dorman, paper-thin Flatman, and Big Bertha, whose power is severe obesity, seem like an intriguing challenge. Certainly, if they can make a wisecracking raccoon and sentient tree into big screen heroes, they can do the same with anything. But there's an obvious possibility right in front of us. In December, the Walt Disney Company announced plans to purchase most of 21st Century Fox, including its movie and TV divisions, for $52.4 billion. That means Disney-owned Marvel Studios can now reclaim the film license to Marvel's iconic X-Men series. Without a doubt, that means recasting the central roles of Wolverine, Jean Grey, Professor X, and Magneto. In February, Fox is releasing Dark Phoenix, with Game of Thrones Sophie Turner as Grey, and director Simon Kinberg has said he hopes it could launch a new trilogy. But it could also be the end of the line of the series that began in 2000 with Bryan Singer's X-Men. It's been a good, long run at 18 years. Feige told you recently that until the deal with Fox is fully closed, they aren't planning to integrate X-Men into the universe, but the affection for those characters make it a natural franchise that Disney could mine for the next decade and beyond. Thinking of a superhero franchise that could possibly be beyond the Avengers sounds like an impossible task, but nobody solves impossible problems like the Ultimates. Funny enough, The Ultimates was originally the name of Marvel's turn-of-the-century Avengers reboot comic that ultimately paved the way for the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the dynamics of the first Avengers movie. In 2016, though, it was revamped as the title of an all-star Marvel superhero team assembled to solve problems that the original Avengers, in all their years of trying, never could. Like, how do we stop the world-devouring alien god Galactus from eating planets? The Ultimates set out not just to save the universe but to actually make it better for everyone. The Ultimates have an eclectic lineup: Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Spectrum, Blue Marvel, and America Chavez, but MCU fans should already be familiar with some of them. Given that this year's Black Panther solo film was the most popular solo superhero movie ever at the box office, it seems likely the character will factor into Marvel's future in some form. Brie Larson is set to debut as Carol Danvers in 2018's Captain Marvel, and given her insignia's hopeful appearance in Infinity War, it feels like Carol will soon be rocketing to the forefront of the MCU's world-saving superheroes. In fact, with the fates of MCU stalwarts like Chris Evans' Captain America and Chris Hemsworth's Thor uncertain after the Infinity War sequel, Larson's Carol and Chadwick Boseman's T'Challa might be in a perfect position to steer the MCU in a new direction. The other three Ultimates are trickier, but could very well be on Marvel Studios' horizon. When Lashana Lynch replaced Wanda Wise among the Captain Marvel cast, fans and experts speculated this could mean Lynch is playing Monica Rambeau, the light-powered superhero most recently known as Spectrum. The dimension-stomping biracial bisexual superhero America Chavez recently won fans with her acclaimed solo comic, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine star Stephanie Beatriz has not been shy about her love for the character. If that dream casting ever comes to fruition, only the antimatter-powered science genius Blue Marvel would be left to adapt. Anybody know if Keith David is free and? Christian Holub. I think Christian's proposal for an Ultimates movie is great, but if we're talking about teams tackling seemingly impossible challenges, my mind immediately goes to the Fantastic Four. Remember, Mr. Fantastic gave Seth himself the task of solving everything? A year ago, this would have seemed like a crazy and nonsensical idea since 21st Century Fox handled the Fantastic Four. Constantin Film owns the rights and licenses them to Fox for distribution, but with the recently announced merger, this doesn't seem nearly as improbable. If there's one thing that's been missing from the MCU since its inception, it's Marvel's first family, which consists of stretchy genius Reed Richards, Invisible Woman Sue Storm, the Human Torch, and, of course, The Thing. They're the family that started it all and are at the heart of the Marvel Universe. What makes them stand out from the rest of Marvel's heroes is they're a family first, scientist explorers second, and superheroes third. Their penchant for traveling the universe and exploring out their locations would further help distinguish them from the rest of the MCU. Plus, with Black Panther moving to the center of the MCU, it would make sense to introduce the Fantastic Four. The character made his debut in the team's book. Admittedly, the Fantastic Four hasn't had the greatest success on screen, but if there's anyone that can rehabilitate them, it's Kevin Feige and the rest of MCU minds. Look what they did with Spider-Man in the wake of the Amazing movies. In order to make Fantastic Four work on screen, they'd need to nail casting and have a great story that focuses on what distinguishes them from the other heroes. Furthermore, on the comics front, there are some signs that Marvel is starting to reinvest in the family. The Fantastic Four haven't been in play in their comics since in the 2015 crossover event Secret Wars, which ended with Reed, Sue, and their children sidelining themselves in order to rebuild the multiverse while Human Torch and the Thing join other groups. However, that's starting to change. Human Torch and the Thing started headlining their own Marvel 2-in-1 series in December, and 2 months ago Marvel announced that it was launching a new Fantastic Four series in August, 3 years after the family's last series was cancelled. Although the comics and screen adaptations don't align all the time, they do take their cues from each other. Marvel reinvigorated its X-Men line with the Resurrection Initiative ahead of Legion's debut on FX last spring. A new Legion comic series also preceded the season 2 premiere this year, and in March, it announced a new Infinity Wars event right before Avengers: Infinity War opened in theaters. So, the fact that Marvel is releasing a new Fantastic Four book definitely suggests that it may have plans for it beyond the pages. A-Force. The first generation of big-screen Avengers was dominated by white men, but luckily the MCU's future is looking a little more diverse thanks to the overpowering success of Black Panther and the budding excitement for Captain Marvel. Evangeline Lilly's Wasp will be the first female Marvel star to show up in the title of the film this summer. And then next year Brie Larson's Carol Danvers will be the first female superhero to lead an MCU movie, which is a real shame considering the all-star roster of actresses now bouncing around the MCU. When it comes to ideas for maximizing that talent, Thor: Ragnarok star Tessa Thompson has said that she, Scarlett Johansson, and Zoe Saldana pitched Kevin Feige on the idea of an all-female Marvel movie. Well, why not? There's precedent in Marvel Comics. Just a few years ago, an all-female Avengers team assembled in the pages of A-Force. Some of the most prominent members of the comic book A-Force team will be unavailable, unless Lyrica Okano's Nico Minoru feels like making the jump from Hulu's Runaways to the big screen, but the basic concept is solid and could easily be filled by the MCU's own amazing Amazons. The girls-only fight scene in Avengers: Infinity War between Oko, Danai Gurira, Black Widow, Johansson, Scarlet Witch, Elizabeth Olsen, and Proxima Midnight, Carrie Coon, felt like a brief test run for what this kind of film could look like, and it was pretty awesome. Recent MCU blockbusters Thor: Ragnarok and Black Panther were headlined by male heroes, but it was female characters like Thompson's Valkyrie and Letitia Wright's Shuri that got everybody talking. Building a new franchise around female heroes would maximize the potential of these fan-favorite characters, and also help the MCU look a little more like our own world.